I was pregnant with my son Kit in 2020 through to 2021. In early 2021, I had a bleed during my pregnancy, was sent home, and then later had another bleed, and so was taken into the hospital and had an induction, and then unfortunately during the induction had a massive placental abruption and crash cesarean section at that point, and unfortunately Kit was not born very well, and he passed away 5 hours and 56 minutes later. We were lucky enough to spend time with him, both when he was still with us, but also afterwards. So we had him up until about 12 o'clock that night.
And it's very natural always to speak to the mum, first of all, but of course the dad is there witnessing all of this as well. So the perspectives, even though the grief, the focus of the grief is the same, the perspectives are very different, aren't they, Andy?
Yes, and it's something that we struggled to connect over, I suppose you could say, because the same thing happened to us, but I watched it from a different angle. And so it was quite difficult to talk to the person you talk to about everything. And that was very challenging, to sort of talk about the exact same thing and not talk the same language, which I suppose we didn't really appreciate until months later.
Yeah. I think it's actually something that came out in one of our ABIGAIL'S counselling sessions, where we talked about, being in a car that's plummeting towards a cliff, but I'm inside the car and Andrew's not even in the car. He's running alongside trying to stop it. And it's just a massive difference in that experience.
Even though you're so closely, I mean, from outside perspectives, you're absolutely in the same spot, actually with very different experiences of it, really.
I think especially because obviously I had surgery, so Andrew went up to see Kit and had quite a traumatic experience as part of that, because he was being given CPR at that time, whereas I had had general anaesthetic, so I was really quite unaware of a lot of things and was quite numb in those hours following. So it was very much a different experience for both of us, and trying to create some common ground to help navigate it together. I think that's where the counselling that we received was really helpful. So in the midst of all of this, at what point did you reach out to ABIGAIL'S? How did that even work? I mean, were you asking for advice? Were you, where were you at when you reached out to ABIGAIL'S? So we'd had some, well, not even we, because unfortunately the hospital supplied counselling is not given to partners. It's just the mother, which I found really unhelpful.
It was unhelpful for you that I wasn't allowed in the room either. So I had to sort of leave so that she could have her counselling, so she couldn't even hold my hand, sort of thing.
And astonishing.
Yeah.
It's odd, isn't it?
It was odd. And I think because we were in the midst of COVID, it was online sessions. It was also it wasn't baby loss specific counselling. They hadn't been briefed about what had happened to us before our first session. It was just not what I think should be the standard of care that there should be for grieving parents. So I searched for something. So I did a web search of what to do, because I understood that we needed support, but didn't know how to find it. So I did a Google search of trying to find kind of specific baby loss counselling, which is how I found ABIGAIL'S, and just emailed and got in touch. And
so you had a very strong sense that you needed some help in this moment. And was that shared with you as well, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, I think my particular experience was marred by, I had to go back to work very quickly, and just I didn't really deal with anything, come to terms with anything until much later down the line. And so, yes, I was fully aware that we needed something, but I went back to work and we opened after COVID, and that's just what I did. And I also struggled with what support did I need? What support did Sarah need? What did we need together? And Sarah's better at organising stuff than I am anyway. So it sort of made sense for her to go, I think we need this. And I went, oh, I think you're right.
And I think my perspective on it was, I think Andrew needs this, and I think we need to do it together. Because I could see his struggle. And interestingly, it hit me probably about 3 years later, because in that time I felt so much that I had to look after Andrew. And so, you know, the route to finding that counselling for me, actually, we ended up doing a couple of sessions together, but I then carried on my own. But actually the initial impetus to find it from my perspective was to help me help Andrew.
And then that was a springboard for me to also get more counselling, different style of counselling, more post-traumatic stress counselling. I did EMDR therapy to deal with the events of the day.
Just the memories being sort of locked and stuck.
Yes. Yeah. So that was my route. And I mean, we said this at the time and it sounds so silly, but it's the perspectives of everything. Like my grief, my mental wellness was surrounding the day, and Sarah's was more holistic, like from the 9 months previous to then the 5 years afterwards.
So the context can be quite different, even though you're so obviously so close. So the moment you got on Google and you've reached out to Abigail's, what was that encounter like? How did that first contact work? And was there a way that it was handled that made a difference?
I think straight away, so we received a response really quickly. I think that was really important.
The speed matters.
Yeah. And also you can tell with language in the most kind of basic form of an email, whether someone understands what you've been through, the context of what you've been through, because it is a different kind of grief. Yes, there is grief for loved ones where you have those memories, but unfortunately you're grieving a future that you never got to have. And so there is a shift in that, and that understanding was really apparent straight away, which really made a difference. That was the juxtaposition with that initial NHS care that we got. There was just that lack of understanding about the nuance of grief.
Of this particular grief. Yeah. So presumably all of these were online pretty much because of the era that we were all living through.
I think our first session was one of the earliest out of lockdown. So our first session with ABIGAIL'S was in person, which obviously also made a difference. Just to have that human connection, that understanding, that active empathy that you can sometimes get lost when there's a computer screen between you. So obviously there's a specific set of circumstances for that period of time, but that difference was really key to the change in the help that we got, I think.
And just from a sort of, well, not practical, because this is dealing with the most sort of fragile mental state that anybody can find themselves in. What did they do that made a difference? What was said that made a difference? I mean, perhaps slightly separately to just simply knowing the right words to use. But what, sort of palpable difference did this counselling make?
I mean, a lot. It is.
Well, to be honest with you, I'll take that on. I can actually talk about it now. I could never have, I don't think I would have fully understood that what kind of therapy I needed and what kind of mental state I was actually in Sarah pointed this out to me maybe a week, 2-3 weeks later, after Kit passed away, that I would tell the story like I was
Narrating.
reading Moby Dick or something. I would be narrating a story that I was watching rather than saying what my experience was and how things affected. And I would talk endlessly about the care that we got from nurses or midwives and their specific names, rather than actually dealing with the issue at hand. As soon as someone was able to fully listen to that and appreciate that, and just raise a couple of eyebrows and go, maybe you might consider this, and have that together, I think that was very important for me, because again, I really struggled to communicate because of our different perspectives, as I already said. Like,
it sounds as though it was quite hard.
I think, I think it was quite hard. I think the biggest issue that we encountered was trying to support each other, but understand that we were moving, grieving in completely different ways, and that sometimes one person's bad day can be someone else's good day, and then how do you try and enjoy your good day in someone else's bad day and not live in a sort of grey, I think was quite tricky. And I think actually the counselling really helped in making us feel not other, not like you are the only person that this ever happens to. You are so unlucky, it's just luck, when actually that's not the case. You're not just unlucky, and there wasn't something that just went wrong with your body. And I think that was key for me to understand, actually, because you, as the person carrying the child, feel an element of, what did my body do wrong? And that self-blame. And I think that that's something that I really found difficult, that really was uncovered within those counselling sessions.
And that just takes time, doesn't it, to even be able to ask those questions, presumably put to you in the most gentle way, but just to sort of excavate that a bit and to really hold things into the light for you to examine within a safe spot.
Yeah, when sometimes actually you're not even fully realising it for yourself, and there could be just little bits of your language that just give away that that's something that you're going through. And I think it's a trained ear that hears that and then responds with help for it.
And presumably the consistency of the person that you're seeing, the fact that you've got your named counsellor, you get to know one another in that professional but sort of deeply emotional space, really, the consistency must be key to it.
100%.
And the consistency of the person at Abigail's outside of counselling as well, that we still talk to now. Like, I just think, I think the wraparound care, I suppose you could call it, is important. And I think another thing to highlight was, I didn't ever really know I was ever going to be ready to talk about it. And I suppose every person that goes through this, partner or otherwise, will find their own timings around it. So mine was later possibly than other people, but it might be a lot earlier than others. I mean, a friend of mine said about how grief isn't linear, and the line that he always used to say to me at the time was, just remember to be kind to yourself. I always carry that, Richard, thank you for that. Just be kind to yourself was so important, but you are not at all. And you recognized that in me, that I wasn't being kind to myself, I wasn't listening to myself, and I needed someone to just see me and allow me to be kind to myself, listen to myself, and then talk about things.
But also to see you as a main character. I know that that's a kind of a theatrical reference there, but you're both experiencing it, and sometimes that focus is on the mother, and therefore, as a byproduct of that, the partner, it just doesn't get the same care, or that secondary position becomes ingrained and they feel that their grief isn't as important to yours, and that's just not accurate or fair.
And I think that's such an amazing reflection of Joe and David and the charity that they've created, because it absolutely is squarely Joe and David, actually, and the rest of the family circle as well. But I think the fact that it's rooted very deeply in both of their experiences, I think really matters in the way that the counselling has developed too. I mean, if there are people who are watching this who might be at that moment where you just thought, where you were, Sarah, thinking, I'm just going to Google some help, or shall I press send, or shall I do it? What would you say to encourage people in that moment that will be thinking, I don't even know whether I need counselling, whether I'm ready for it, is this the right thing? What would either of you say?
I think that if you were feeling unwell, you would go to a doctor. And after an experience like this, you're very unlikely to be well. And so to seek out the help that you would if it was a physical problem that you were experiencing is really important. And you would see someone, if you had a problem with your knee, an osteo specialist. If you're going through a specific type of grief, I think it's really helpful to speak to someone that has experience in that specific area, because it enables you to talk more freely and more openly and not have to repeat your story over and over again, and the trauma of that, and relive it over and over again, which, you know, Abigail's has been so amazing with having that same counsellor. We didn't have to repeat our story over and over again. It was so beneficial to us, and actually, you know, has let us understand varying stages of our grief. So those early days, but then, you know, with the sessions that you get, that can be spread out over whatever
and
time
the legal
period.
process to navigate as well in your situation, which will not be an unfamiliar one to a lot of couples in your situation. So you've got all of that going on as well.
Yeah, and I think our counsellor specifically really helped us navigate the investigations that we were going through with the hospital at the time. So we were very much in the process of that hospital investigation and receiving very detailed information about the care of both myself and our son, which was really traumatic. And you relive something from your own perspective, but when you see the other input that has resulted in whatever outcome there is, that can sometimes be helpful, but actually can sometimes be really harming as well. And to have that support there and always know that that support is there, I think that's really key, that we knew that we could talk about it with our counsellor. We had that support kind of bracing us for those difficult meetings as well.
Let's talk about your boys. How did the counselling that you had from Abigail's help you to honour Kit?
Well, I think from my perspective, it helped a lot, especially in my pregnancy, because there was something within me that refused to have hope. My default, my only experience as a mother was that my baby wouldn't survive. So that as a mindset was really tricky. And no matter what a doctor or midwife would say to me, I'd be like, lovely, but he will die. And trying to kind of unravel and support me through that mindset, I think was so key, just so that once, very thankfully, Cooper did arrive safely, with a bit of drama, but safely, that kind of shock that he did survive was like, oh, I have tools now that I have built up through these sessions to parent because the tools that I've got not only bolster my mental health when I'm really going through it, but also help me navigate, early parenting that is,
requires confidence, whatever has happened to you beforehand.
Yeah. And there are added kind of intricacies when you're parenting post a loss. Especially if it's your first child that you lose, because there's lots of different journeys that people are going to take, and they all look very slightly different. And with Cooper specifically, we were both very anxious. We were very anxious through the pregnancy. We were very anxious in those early weeks post him arriving and getting him home. And we were very keen just to get him home. It was just a big hurdle just to get home. We just wanted to get home.
What are your thoughts about that? How did the counselling help you think about Kit, and then honour his place in the family that you've now seen Cooper's safe arrival, Jude's safe arrival?
I think I can't accurately put that into words. I think it's somewhere back here that I can't quite grab. It definitely exists though. The tools, as Sarah calls them, whatever they are, I know that they're there because. Nope. Need a minute, sorry.
That's all right.
No, it's fine. I have a 13-year-old Seb from a previous relationship, and telling him was the hardest bit I did. Oh no, it's not. There are loads of hard bits. It was one of the really difficult things, because he just didn't understand. He was 8 at the time. And so 7, just about to turn 8. And he just kept saying, I
just want to see him.
I don't understand why I can't see him. So that was the day after I sat down and talked to him about it. And so Kit was very much a place in our family straight away, because we both did, and his mum, actually, all of our family had to help Seb understand what happened, and why Sarah wasn't pregnant anymore, but Kit wasn't here. And so he's always just been part of that story. He's always been part of, we moved house the month after Kit passed away. It was always supposed to be that Kit had a room. So he's always been part of our sort of family story, our family life. And so therefore it was possibly natural when Cooper started talking to talk to him about, what's that on Mummy's locket? Who's that in that picture? Why are you sad, Daddy? It was an easier, I suppose, conversation to have with him, because I'd had it before, and we had had it before. And it was, Kit's important in our family, even though I can't.
His place was naturally there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was naturally there.
And I think one of the things that I remember coming out of one of our counselling sessions was us talking about, we just moved into this house, and we'd pre-planned, I'd bought the paint. Even though I hadn't moved in yet, we were back in our old flat, I was pregnant, I was like, that's the colour, I'm buying it. Should we still do it? And that conversation of, yeah, of course you should. It's Kit's room. It might be a place that you sit and remember him and have, that concentrated kind of peaceful time to think and reflect. And if that helps you, then you should do it. And I think that that was a real positive that came out of it.
And all of these difficult paths that you've walked, either very much together or in your different experiences of it, this was really helped by what Abigail's brought to you. I mean, if you had to be it feels as though like you're the complete sort of ideal advocates for Abigail's work, but it's hard to overstate what they've brought to all of this for you.
Yeah, it is actually. It's really difficult. I think that the legacy that they will have within our family is that we will be supporters of the charity for life. That's the importance that we place on the care and the support that they gave us through our darkest time as a family. We are intending to continue to raise funds for the charity, because as a parent who has experienced loss like this, your worst nightmare becomes it happening to anyone else. And if it does, what you want to ensure is that they get the right support as early as possible, because you know when you've received the wrong support and the detriment that that can have within your kind of grieving process. So if in any way we can advocate, raise funds, do anything that we can to support the charity as a family, and our friends as well who have joined in the fundraising, they know the importance the charity has played within our home. They are becoming advocates themselves as well, because actually there are very few places, there are very few rooms that you will walk in that allow you to have an ease of conversation about the loss of your child or just your lost child. And the importance of those rooms and the relationships that you may encounter through the charity, through other parents that have gone through something similar, it just adds to your web of support. You're not feeling so alone. You're not feeling othered every time you're asked, is this your first? You know that there are other families that have trodden the path. There is the founders of the charity that trod the path that you're walking on and are aiming to support families because of theirs. And from our perspective, we will advocate for the charity because it helped us. It's got to continue to help others, and it will. We could probably talk about it all day.
Wax lyrical.
Yeah, exactly.
Lyrically beautifully. You have indeed.
I never needed a charity before. I'm very, very lucky in my life in terms of I never needed to reach out to any type of charity or considered that as an option I needed. And I'm now very fortunate that I've reached out to this charity. I mean, it's as you rightly say, it's difficult to understate how important they have been, and what sort of life I would be leading if I hadn't have, joined you in your Google search.
I was going to say, it's that the Google search. The Google search is at the heart of it too. Yeah. Well, thank you both. I don't underestimate that even just having to sit down and talk it through is hard enough. But
it's remarkable how it's been over 5 years, and I still can't talk about certain things. But I mean, to say to them the man 4.5 years ago, you'll be able to talk about any of it, that was completely alien to me then. I could not talk about it at all. So now being able to actually sit here and talk about it, and I know people say that time is a great healer. I think for me, grief is not linear. It does what it does when it does it, and the waves come and go. And all of this has been pointed out to me by counselling, by therapy, by those conversations, by being seen, by even just every now and again getting an email from Becky about how my training is going for my cycle ride.
Yeah.
It's pretty special charity, I won't lie to you.